Hello, elevator community. Welcome to the Elevator Entrepreneur Podcast. My mission is to empower my fellow elevator entrepreneurs in creating your growth plan, which is going to free your time, allowing you to rest easy. I'm your host, Sean Madden. I've had an amazing 35 years in the elevator industry, starting out in the field, managed several elevator companies, started, built, and sold Madden Elevator Company for well over market value, and serving as your NAC president. I've done a lot in the industry, and now I'm ready to pay my knowledge forward. Let's dive right in. Welcome to the Elevator Entrepreneur Podcast. I have a wonderful young lady here, Miss Kassie Robinson of Robinson Elevator. Welcome.
Thank you. That's me.
That's you. So we were talking a little bit earlier, and it's interesting. Kassie and I have a lot of background together. She's my niece. So I like to talk about what brought you in the elevator industry. Tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get in the industry? Give us a little bit of the experience that brought you to where you are today.
Sure. So I guess it all started, I would say I was 22 or 23. I was bartending. I really enjoyed it. It was fun for me, but I knew that it was time for me to get a big girl job. I needed 401k and health insurance. I like to visit the doctor to make sure I'm healthy, but I looked online and I saw a job posting for a dispatcher at Roto-Rooter. Well, I applied and I got the interview and I got the job. And I remember seeing you and Susie I call her Susu just for future reference.
Yeah.
That is my Aunt Susu. So I saw you guys at the bar while I was bartending and let you know what job I got. And you said a dispatcher. I might be looking for a dispatcher. And I said,
Yeah.
so I was like, well, how can work for you? Just sign me up. I came in. Did I even do it?
Yeah, you did. It's funny because I try to get people to come in and tell their stories, but yours I know pretty well. So lived the nightlife. I'm amazing bartender, did a great job. And then when you said you got this job and we were at Kingfish, I was like, well, my dispatcher just left. So why don't you come in for an interview tomorrow? And you were like, heck yeah. So you came in and I remember saying, I know you don't like getting up and you like to sleep late. So if you're late one time, by 7:00 in the morning, don't even show up. Just in the first 90 days, you're gone. Just don't even show up. And I was amazed that you actually made it in early every day.
Yeah, every day. And I might have slept during lunch a few times, but I still made it happen.
Absolutely.
So that's where it started, really, was with you. And eventually we decided that it was probably best for us to split ways. So we did. And Matt and I moved to Florida, and the company we were working for decided to sell. We just knew in our heart that's not what we wanted. We didn't want to work for a company that was being bought by corporate. Yeah. We like the private sector. So we decided to start our own company. We have owned this business for almost 4 years. So
congratulations, by the way. I mean,
thank you.
I know you're my niece, but if you look at the history of what you went through and you jumped out and started it, being an elevator entrepreneur, it's a lot, and people don't realize it. When you jump out and you made that leap and you've made it 4 years, you've almost made it to the 5-year mark, but you're going to get there. I know, like any elevator entrepreneur out there, the trials and tribulations and everything you go through to get there. So awesome job.
Thanks.
So the next thing we want to talk a little bit about is business challenges. I know any business has a challenge. It doesn't matter what kind of business you're in. There are going to be business challenges.
Oh, yeah.
What one or two big business challenges you had, and what were some of the things you've done to solve them?
Sure. I would say our two biggest issues are cash flow and people. And I find that to be most of the issues that people have is cash flow and people. We're a cash-based business. We don't run on any loans. So it's getting pretty low on cash. Then we have to figure out what to do next. But we're currently in the thick of it with the cash flow things. That's a battle that we're trying to beat at the moment. But we have a good plan in place. We're going to start working on a cash flow. It's actually being worked on right now as we speak is the cash flow sheet. So we'll have a better handle on that, I would say, by next month. But I wish I would have done it sooner. You really don't think that it's important until you get down to the wire. And we're close enough to growing large enough where we will need a bank loan eventually. We've spoken with financial advisors and things like that. So we have good advice and a good plan in place. But I'll tell you, I've heard that they say that the first 5 years is really hard. They were not lying. It is not for the weak, I will say. I can't tell you how many times we even asked you, like, can we just sell this day already?
Yeah.
But there's just something in both of us that we're just not ready to give it up yet.
You're entrepreneurs. I mean, when you jump out, even if you did sell it, you would probably end up starting something else at some point because it's in your blood anyway. Cash flow is always a challenge with any business, no matter how big or small you are. Structuring that is always a challenge. I know, I think you were there and you lived it. At an elevator, we had some contractors that quit paying us. They just out of the blue said, nope, we're not paying you anymore. And we were doing some pretty big jobs in the $1 million range. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Well, we had a cash flow plan and we had systems, but this was something out of the norm. And what are you going to do and how do you tackle it? And I remember me, you, and Matt, and maybe Philip, I don't know if it was Philip or one of the CFOs, we all got together and talked through it and tried to figure out, okay, we were doing this, but how do we get to the next level? What do we do to build those pieces? And that's always a challenge because you're busy and you got to take the time to step back and look at it from a different lens to see if you can make some more improved progress. So have you done anything like that recently to try to help in Robinson Elevator?
We have not, actually. We've been riding this wave of like things just falling in our lap. We know that if we need to take this business to the next level, we have to make investments on time and people and different resources so we can get to that next level.
Right.
We're just 4 people operating this $500,000 company. We're small fries, but we have big dreams, and I think we'll get there. We certainly aren't trying to build Rome in a day. We are okay with the gradual growth that we have gotten to. It's starting to get to the point where we're like, okay, it's almost time. We're going to have to take the next step.
Yeah. Gradual growth is always good for sure, especially when you're cash flowing the business yourself without any loans. It's definitely a challenge because growth costs money, essentially.
It does. It really does.
Yeah. And customers are not paying as quick as they used to and trying to come up with excuses why they don't. You have to continually improve systems. The world is obviously continually changing. Cash is king. They always say cash is king. And I wish I'd have done some things better or differently when I was at Madden, where I had a better buffer of cash before I made big decisions. But it's hindsight. I want to share that stuff with people. Like they say, have 6 months of operating capital in your back pocket. Well, that's almost impossible as a small business.
That's very hard.
You have to be a several $1 million business to be able to accomplish something like that. So when you're a startup or growing, even if you're growing slow like you should in 10, 20%, $500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million, even 2 million, 6 months operating capital is just a lot because number one, techs cost a lot of money and insurance is insane. A lot of what I hear about you should do this, the elevator industry is a little different. And
it really is.
It is. And a lot of people say, well, it's just business. It's the same. It's the same as everywhere else. And I swear, I don't believe it is.
It's totally different. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like night and day with all the other businesses. It's a beast in its own for sure. I mean, it's a recession-free industry that we're in. I just feel that we operate on different rules and regulations than a lot of the other businesses do. Even plumbing and electric, it's totally different. Although they do make good money and things like that, I feel like our insurance costs are more for general liability and workers' comp, just because of all of the risk that we take and what we do.
What was the second challenge you mentioned?
People.
And
I think everyone in our industry can level with this. It's a specialized industry and you have to have a license for it, just like a doctor has to be a doctor. Obviously, you don't go to school in college, but you have to train for that and test into it. It's like a weird part in our history now where we're finding people who aren't lazy and who are willing to actually show up even on time. It's just crazy to me. And people in my generation, I don't know if it's the new place that we started our business, if I'm not used to the different types of people that might be here, or if it's maybe I'm just so used to one area and I don't know. But finding office employees is not my problem. My problem is finding mechanics and helpers who are willing to put in the time and effort to want to become a mechanic. And so that's a challenge too.
So what have you done to try to mitigate that? I know
Well,
you went to some local resources, people that Matt might have known.
so for the listeners, my husband has been in the industry for 14 to 16 years or so. So he knew many more mechanics than I ever did. And most of his best friends are mechanics. We moved from Kentucky to Florida, and that's where we started our business in Florida. And finding people here in an industry where we don't know any of the local mechanics was really hard. We found a guy who had recently quit and he was working with us for a while and that just didn't work out. And then we started talking with, he actually worked at Madden.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He was in the same place and he knew Matt. He was really good friends with him. As soon as Matt called him, he was like, absolutely, I'll come work for you. That's nice, but you don't always get that. We've built a reputation locally, thankfully, that people know that we do the right thing by the customer. And a lot of times I've found that good employees will go to places where they know that people are being taken care of, including the customers. We go out of our way to make sure our employees are taken care of, but once you start losing your morality in this industry, you lose customers and people lose faith in you, even your employees do, when they know that you're lying to customers. So at the end of the day, as long as we're always being faithful and true to our customers, we know that we will always find the right people to help us do the work. We just had to give that trust up to God or the universe or whatever you want to believe in. Eventually, we just had to stop worrying about the bad people and start doing the right thing.
No, that's a really good point because you can waste all your energy on what other people are doing and it looks like they're not doing something right. It's frustrating because they look like they're doing amazing and you're like, why? But really the energy needs to be, what are you focused on? You know, where are you going? How are you going to get the right people, put them in the right seat? Finding talent is not just the elevator industry. I think it's all industries, but the elevator industry is feeling it really hard because we do a lot of different things. One day you could be working on a residential and have footies on your feet. And the next day you're cleaning out an elevator pit of oil and debris, or you're in a chemical plant. And the next time you're just doing PM in an office building. So I think that diversity is hard to find. And the old school mechanics that grew up working on cars and tinkering and then wanted to go find a blue collar job because they didn't want to go to a 4-year college, they're becoming fewer and far between because cars changed. I think they're computers and so are elevators, but the blue collar worker obviously changed a lot. So
It did.
yeah, really appreciate you sharing those insights. I'm sure everyone here can relate to finding people is really hard and then keeping them. Like we talked about culture. Culture is very important and you find the right person and having the right culture and taking care of them, I think is extremely important. So kudos, you're doing something right. Pat yourself on the back. Sometimes you don't always think about it, but 4 years in business, growing a successful business and having employees that you can count on, that's a lot and you're there. So take the wins when you can. That's what I'm
Thank you.
saying.
I'll take it.
We'll wrap this up. What's one thing you would like to share as advice, like a golden nugget you might give fellow elevator entrepreneurs in our industry? What is something you'd like to share with them?
I think two things. First thing is don't lose your moral compass just to make a dollar because at the end of the day, it's not worth it. And the other piece of advice is don't give up because we are in the thick of it right now. And I would love to throw in the towel anytime, but I know that we can't. It's just one of those things, in entrepreneurship, it's just a roller coaster ride all the time. But I have faith in the fact that I know that although today is hard, I know that tomorrow is going to be something totally different. And the lows are low, but the highs are high. It's worth the craziness and the stress, but it is worth it.
Great advice. Don't give up. The life of an entrepreneur where you shoot up, everything's great one day, And the next day somebody says they're quitting and you shoot down and go, oh my God, why am I doing this? Let's just find something else to do. And then the next day somebody says, hey, I'd like to come work for you. And you shoot back up like, oh my God, if we had them, we could do X, Y, Z. So everything's cloud nine again. So yeah, it's a roller coaster of emotions. Hang in there, like you said. Persist and hang in there and don't quit, don't give up, and it'll pan out. I think the good people, it all pans out for. If you work hard, try to make a good positive difference, and don't quit when you're close to the end because you might just need over that hump. So great advice, Cassie. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us today, and have a
Hey.
great, safe week.
You too. Thank you.
Have a good one. Thank you for listening to the Elevator Entrepreneur Podcast. I truly hope this information helps my fellow elevator entrepreneurs to build your growth plan so you can free your time, allowing you to rest easy. If you need help getting your elevator business organized for growth, I've created tools and templates inside my favorite business operating system that you can access for free. Plus, you can have a 30-day free trial of the software. Just head over to elevatorstrategichub.com/ebos. That's /EBOS to get your free access, or you can click the link below. Thanks again. I'll be back next time with a brand new episode on the Elevator Entrepreneur. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I will continue to empower my fellow elevator entrepreneurs.